And I'm now joined by Thiago Rabelo, our content creator in Brazil. Thiago, how's it going?
Hi, Manuel. I'm fine, and you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to have this conversation. It's the first time I have you on the pod. I had your colleague Marcus on before, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you on Endrick, who you just interviewed for both the Guardian, but also for TransferMarkt. You were able to bits and parcel pieces off for both outlets. Before we talk about where he's at right now, what was he like to speak to?
And Endrick is a nice guy. It's the second time that I interviewed him. I interviewed Endrick in 2023 when he was playing for Palmeiras. He was such a young boy, only 17 years old, before he went to Real Madrid. And now we have a new opportunity. He was in Lyon, in his house, and I was in my house. And so it was an interview via Zoom. It, it's a good thing about technology. We can talk with many people abroad, in international areas, like you, like Endrick, like many people. It's nice.
Technology is great that way. I'm sitting currently on my house on Vancouver Island, and you're sitting in Sao Paulo, right? So that works really well. I find him really fascinating because he's been around now for what feels like forever, and it's so easy to forget that he's still a teenager. He's only 19, and he burst onto the scene in Brazil for Palmeiras in such spectacular fashion, right? Similar to previous Brazilian greats. And before anyone goes after me and says, like, what are you doing comparing these guys? I'm not saying he is like Pelé or Ronaldo. What I'm comparing with here is saying that both Pelé and Ronaldo came onto the scene at a very young age as well, right? So I'm not saying Endrick is the next Pelé or Ronaldo, but that is a parallel that he was 15, right, when he made his first league debut for Palmeiras.
Uh,
Similar.
when he, when he was 16, because in Brazil it's
Mm,
prohibited to play before 16. And so when he turned 16, he debuted for the club. But it's interesting point, because Ronaldo, for example, he debuted for Cruzeiro at 17, and Ronaldo wasn't a rich guy like like Endrick in this at the same age. Uh, Now I have a friend. He knew Ronaldo in that time in '93, and he said he picked up Ronaldo for a drive because Ronaldo was waiting for the bus.
mm.
And he said, "Hey, Ronaldo, come with me. I can go with you in your house." And so, come on, in 30 years, everything is so different. And I was in the Endrick's area where he grew up in Valparaíso de Goiás. It's near to Brasília, the Brazilian capital,
Hmm.
federal capital, and it was a very poor area. Yeah, very poor. Not good conditions. People lives there in a bad conditions. It's okay. Nothing. He's not hunger, or maybe feel hunger, something like that. But it was a difficult life. Since I think when Endrick uh, come to Palmeiras when he was 12 years old, Endrick is a rich guy.
Yeah.
This is it's crazy about football. Since 13, since 14, he's a famous man in Brazil. And so he needs to couple with that situation, because every people in Brazil now is waiting fantastic things from Enrique. I don't know if maybe because the current moment of Brazil, we have Vinicius Jr. as a
Mm.
special player, but who more? I don't know if Brazil there is one more spectacular player who can decide games just one one play. Uh, Rodrigo sometimes,
Mm.
but we have no many players in the high level. And I don't know. I think if you ask for the Brazilian supporters, I think they expect more from Endrick than Matheus Cunha, even Rafinha, who was one of the best players in the world in the last season. But if you ask a Brazilian, I think they expect more from Endrick than Rafinha in the World Cup.
Hmm.
It's great.
That seems almost unfair because he's only 19, right?
Only my two.
And I mean, Ronaldo, when he was 17, he went to the 1994 World Cup, but he didn't play. He
No, he
had
didn't play any game.
the quality, I guess, was so much better. There was Bebeto, there was Romario, right? There was so much quality in front of him that they were able to shelter him kind of from that expectation. It's really fascinating because I think when Endrick moved to Real Madrid for 47.5 million euros, and there's add-ons to that as well, right? So I think the deal can grow to something like 70 million euros. It's an enormous amount of money for an 18-year-old at the time. And then at Real Madrid, when you look at his stats, it never really materialized. But the expectations were so enormous because, he scored 7 goals in 40 games across all competitions. But we also have to remember he was 18 at the time, right? Is that maybe where the load is almost too heavy when you have all these expectations, the high transfer fee, the fact that he went to Real Madrid? Is that almost too much?
I don't know if the expectation was too much. I think it's expectation what he can do, because it's since young. Endrick is a special player for Brazil. Everyone expects big things
Mm,
from him. And if you see the numbers of Endrick for Real Madrid, it's not a bad number. It's not a bad figures. He has 1 goal per 105 minutes. It's almost similar to Kylian Mbappé. Kylian Mbappé, I think, is 1 goal per 85 minutes, and Vinicius Jr. is more than 200 minutes per goal. So the figures of Endrick is quite fantastic for a man who almost never was in the starting 11, and so I don't know, expectation was too big, too high. I think it was expectation what he can do.
how do you think you spoke to him? How do you think he copes with the expectation? Does he feel it at all?
I asked him about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel the pressure? And he said, uh, I try to don't read. I try to be away from the news.
Mm,
I don't want to talk about the situation. I try to do my job. I try to play my football. I try to enjoy my life with my family, because I remember in 2023 when I interviewed Endrick for the first time, he said he had many problems with social media.
mm,
Uh, and he told me a story that when he finished a match, his first action was to get the mobile to see what people was talking about him on Twitter. And this is crazy, man, because if you read the comments on Twitter, you can you can read everything. You can read good things, bad things, unbelievable things, and so you have no idea about your football, about your level. Some people can say you are the best player ever, better than Pelé, but some people can say that you are the worst player ever. And so I think he's maturing in a good way.
mhm.
He's so young, but I think he's maturing in very good level. It's a different Endrick from that guy that I met 3 years ago.
Yeah, social media I mean, like, I remember when I was active on Twitter, you would have like 10 great comments or hundreds of great comments on an article you did, and then there was just the one bad comment and it would just sink you. Now imagine that 100 times over, right? um,
And you are not so young in that time.
No, that's the other thing, right?
And it was 16, 17, so it's more
Way too young.
unbelievable.
I think the social media pressure is something that needs to be looked at. He's now at Olympique Lyon. Loan move that I think actually probably worked out really well for him, right? 15 games he's played in Ligue 1. He's got 5 goals, 7 assists. So very prolific. That's 12 goal contributions in 15 games. Also scored once in the Europa League, scored twice in 3 Coupe de France games. It seems like a move that was perfect for him.
Definitely, definitely. He was needing time for play because with Madrid at Madrid, I think he wouldn't receive any chance. It's a hard battle because you need to compete against Mbappé, Vinicius Jr, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Arda Güler, so many good players. Mastantuono, I love Mastantuono, but he lost the space after Xabi Alonso be sacked. And maybe Endrick could be the same with Arbeloa because maybe he couldn't receive any chance with the new coach, and he would lost the World Cup because it's a crazy thing about Brazil. Brazilian players don't care too much about clubs. They prefer to play for the Brazilian national team. I was talking to Carlo Ancelotti last week, and he said it. It's crazy how Brazilian players be careful. He loves to play for the Brazilian national team. The most important thing for a Brazilian player is the national team. And for Endrick is the same. He went to Lyon to try to be part of the Brazilian squad in the World Cup, and I think he'll be there. But just because of him, because before the game against Croatia, Ancelotti said, Endrick is a man for the future. Endrick is not a man for the present. And then the following day, Endrick came to the pitch. In only 15 minutes, he suffered a penalty, who scored by Igor Thiago, and did an assist to Gabriel Martinelli. And 15 minutes, he changed again his future. And now he's in the Brazilian squad for the World Cup. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that is incredible. I can relate to that because growing up in Germany, the German national team has a similar standing than Brazil's national team has in Brazil. I do think that some players prefer playing for Germany over their clubs, so I can definitely relate to that. Um, I wonder when you look at his market value now, because when you look at his market value graph on our side, it went all the way up to 60 million euros in June 2024. That's, of course, because of the transfer fee that Real Madrid paid, right? And then it just started dropping, right? It went to 40 million euros in December 2024. Then it went to 35 million euros in August 2025. And then it went to 25 million euros in December 2025. And then it's gone back up this March to 35 million euros. Neither one of us are part of the French team, so I can't say what they are going to do with his market value. Well, I have a good idea, but we're not supposed to say. But let's just speculate and say it should probably go up, right, Thiago?
Yeah, probably you up. But this is a something quite normal for Brazil. If you get the numbers of Vinicius Jr and Rodrigo, they drop, and after they rise the market value because I think they need a time to adapt. We are talking about a teenager. He is only 19 years old now. And so it's difficult because you need to move to a new country, to a new culture, with new people, with the most important thing, maybe the hardest thing, is that it's a new language. So there is a pattern in Brazil about coach, and he's like a father for young players. Not for only young players. It's for mature players as well. They love a coach that work like a father. And so when you go to Europe, you don't have this situation. It's a work teammate. They don't treat you like a son, like a teenager, like a young man. They treat you like a normal man.
Mm,
And so this is very difficult for a Brazilian player because the whole life that he had, he was treated like a son.
yeah.
And when you go to a new country, you need to adapt to this new society who don't take it, who don't see you like a son. Maybe that's the point about the Brazilian players love Carlo Ancelotti
Yeah.
because Ancelotti, the most important thing to him is the relationship. The most important, he said many times, the most important thing in his work is the relationship. And Ancelotti knows how to cope with the players, and he treats some players like the son, like Vinicius Jr, like Rodrigo. And I think this is a point that Endrick missed a lot in Real Madrid, that he needed to learn in the most difficult way. But I think now he's on the path, in the right path.
Final thought, and do you think he's going back to Real Madrid this summer, and is he going to be a success there?
Yeah, yeah. We talked about it as well, because I asked him, "Hey, you are doing very good level for Lyon, and had you talked about you stayed in Real Madrid?" And he said, "Yes, I talked many times about it, and I think maybe I could have the same success that I'm doing for Lyon." And I was like, "Really? Do you think it?" And he said, "Yes, maybe because I need chance, I needed opportunities, and I didn't have opportunities with Xabi Alonso because I was injured. I lost 3 4 months because my injury. And when I was able to play, that was in November. It was a made decision that I need to leave to a new club. But if I stay there, maybe I could have the same success that I'm reaching for Lyon. So I think he's very optimistic, and he's very confident about his quality. That's a good point about Endrick. He is very confident. For me, that's the best quality for a striker, because if you have confidence, you have everything. Because sometimes you are not playing a good level, you are playing so bad, but you need to trust in himself. And Endrick is a guy that trusts a lot in his capacity to change the game, to score goals. And so I think he's he's able to return to Real Madrid and be the player that we are expecting from him.
I think I think you I personally think I fully agree with you. And I looking at this Real Madrid side at the moment, where there's so many players, especially in attack, that are so very similar. Um, the one thing that is really missing is a proper number 9, right? Because Kylian Mbappé, world class player, don't get me wrong, but he's not really a true number 9. Vinicius Jr., not really a number 9. Rodrigo, when he's fit, definitely not a number 9. I mean, they played Jude Bellingham there at times, right? So when you really look at the squad, they could really use Endrick. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that he has the confidence of wanting to go back, because he must be looking at the squad and say like, yeah, I can play there. So yeah, it's really interesting.
And
Thiago,
oh, come on, it's difficult because, come on, you are talking about Mbappé, Vinicius Jr, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Arda Güler. And so there are so many good players. and you need to be confident to say I can play in that team.
Yeah, and
I
I can
have
be better than them, and I can provide something that they don't have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thiago, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm definitely going to have you back on for anything Brazil related. Check out the interview on TransferMarkt. It is, I think, on pretty much every domain now. So no matter what language you read, you should be able to read it. Thiago's excellent piece on Endrick. We'll do this soon again. Until next time. Cheers, Thiago.
That's right. Bye.